Welcome, one and all. The topic of today's discussion is a brief survey of Indian poetics. We have gone through so far various literary theories, but the discussion cannot be completed if you do not cover Indian poetics. This motherland of ours is known through its language and culture that we can call Sanskrit and Sanskriti. We feel pride that we have very rich culture, tradition, and ancient civilization. Therefore, whenever you talk about Indian poetics, it is used in the context of Sanskrit poetics. Poetics is mainly concerned with the effects of poetry in the mind of the man who has literary taste and examines certain mental states. Indian poetics evolved out of dramaturgy, and it deals with the theory of poetry, and basically it deals with the process of poetry. So, in Indian poetics, we have external tools, not only the internal tools that we have generally in any theory, but the external tools, they help us to understand the deep meaning of any work of art, including poetry. So, according to Indian poetics, literary criticism is somewhat related to literary philosophy. Therefore, what I personally feel that Indian poetry or Indian poetics at large, Indian poetics is having its foundation on philosophy and human psychology. In Indian context, the literary criticism is quite old, and it started from 2nd century with Bharat Muni, and up to you have Pandit Jagannath in 17th century. The history is of it is quite old. It is almost of 2000 years old. And this vast area of Indian poetics cannot be covered in a lecture or two. But still, I will try my level best to cover it in a lecture, 30 minutes or 25 minutes. So what I have done, I have taken the major schools of Indian poetics, their thinkers and their text. So we have Rasa school, where we have Bharat Muni, his Natya Shastra is there. Then we have Alankara school, where we have Bhama, Kavya Alankara, and Dandin's Kavya Darshans are there. Then in Riti school we have Vaman, Kavya Alankar Sutra is there. In Dhavani school we have Anandavardhan's Dhavnelok. And Vakrukti school we have Kuntak's Vakrukti Jivitam. And finally we have Ochitya school, where we have Shamendra, very great work of him, Ochitya Vichar Charcha. So, in order to understand literary theories, we need to understand their focus, where their focus lie. Alankara and Vakrukti, they have their focus on the language of text. Language of text is more important in interpretation of text, in analysis of any text. You need to understand the language portion first. Therefore, we have great tradition of linguistics also in Sanskrit poetics, like Panini, Ashtadhyaya is there. Then we have Bhartwari, Vakyapadiya is there. So, I don't like to go into that discussion right now. Let us come back to focus of Indian schools, Indian poetic schools. Gundosha, Riti and Ochitya, they have their focus on style and value of composition, and Dhavani focuses on verbal symbolism. Rasa, of course, has its impetus on aesthetic experience. Yuktis, they have their focus on discourse analysis. Kavya Mimamsa, it has its focus on comprehensive analysis of a work of art. So let us have our discussion on at the outset, at the very beginning, on Rasa school, school of Rasa. So the word aesthetics, it originally means things which are perceptible by senses. It is completely, opposite to the Western concept. In the Western context, aesthetics means the philosophy of fine arts, which relates to beauty in general. Whereas, as I have already told you, in Indian context, aesthetics means science and philosophy of fine arts. It's both application of science and then it goes deep into the philosophical aspects of any work of art. Bharat Muni, very legendary author of Natya Shastra, who is also reckoned as very first Sanskrit work on dramaturgy as Natya Shastra we have. And not only the text, the commentators are also very important in Sanskrit poetics or Indian poetics. We have Abhinav Gupta, who wrote commentary on Natya Shastra, named as Abhinav Bharati. So, Bharat or Bharat Muni or sage Bharat Muni can be called a true pioneer of literary theory in Indian poetics. He was a very renowned scholar of 2nd century BC, and his work, it gave us pivotal concept of art and poetry. Bharat Muni's name also suggests us an acronym of 3 syllables: Bha for bhav, that is mood, disposition, emotion; Ra for raga or melody, and Ta for tal or rhythm. So in this Natya Shastra we have around 6,000 verses, 36 chapters based on different elements related to theatre, art, dance, music. So we have almost 36 chapters that I have already quoted out. In chapter 6 and 7th, being the students of literature and language, we have more interest, as we have theory of rasa in it. Rasa, as you know very well, like mango juice or juice, shape, flavor, rash, or you can call it in literary sense as sentiment or aesthetic emotions. Rasa can be called the cardinal principle of Indian aesthetics. So, it signifies the aesthetic pleasure that you relish, that one relishes while watching anything or reading any text or literary composition. Therefore, it is well said in Natya Shastra, rasayate anayana iti rasa. So whenever you watch any heroic deeds or incident, you enjoy what type of ras? Veer ras. It is the prominent or predominant rasa that you will relish whenever you will watch any heroic deed or action. The prominent rasas are 8 in numbers. The 9th one is included or added later on. They originate from their respective sthayi bhavas or permanent emotions, and they are ever present in a human being. Rasa is somewhat eternal joy, Sachidanand, the joy that is equivalent to divine rapture. It is pure bliss, which is beyond all worldly pleasures. And rasas can be experienced by sahridayas, the person with high inborn sensibilities and sensitivities. In Natya Shastra, he mentioned 9 rasas. like Shangar Vir Karnuha Adbhut Hasya Bhayanaka Vibhassa Rodro Sanchats Rasa Nav Prakirtataha. So, after this particular school, the discussion can continue for hours and hours. You cannot complete in a lecture that I have already told you. Let us move to School of Alankar. Bhama and Dandin are the pioneers in Sanskrit poetics during 6th and 7th century AD. Bhama and Dandin, they talk about, Alankar, the importance and the use of Alankar in poetry. For them, Alankar is everything. Rasa is the medium of Alankar. It is the madhyam of Alankar. Bhama said very aptly, a woman cannot look attractive without ornaments. Similarly, a poetry cannot be charming, enduring, beautiful without Alankar. The literal meaning of Alankar is embellishment, and thus it can be equated with the Western concept of metaphor. Here it reminds me Longinus, who talks about the grandeureness, the grandness of figures of speech, a certain excellence and distinction in expressions. So metaphors are very important there. But we have Alankar school, very separate school. Alankar are like ornaments that enhance the beauty of literary piece. They also help us in distinguishing and differentiating poetry and prose. Bhama said, Shabdarthu Sahitu Kavyam. It means poetry is made of words with meaning. Words have their own meanings, importance. Therefore, we have this concept of Shabda Brahm. Bhama focused on the importance of Alankars and brings all Alankars under the general term. Not Bhama, even Dandin, he stresses the importance of Alankar. And he said, it is basically the modes of figurative expressions. Alankars are what? They are the modes of figurative expressions. Not only Bhama, Dandin, there are other poeticians like Udbhat, Rudrat and Vaman. They also talked about, they advocated the use of Alankar in any composition. Let us move to the next school, School of Riti. Riti is the way of presentation or the style of presentation. Therefore, we call it, style is man, man is style. शैली ही व्यक्ति है और व्यक्ति ही शैली है. Riti is the formation of arrangement of marked inflected constructions. Vaman, the chief propounder of this particular school, for him Riti is an integral part of poetry. And Riti consists in a special arrangement or formation of words. And it is feature of all arts. And it is the soul and essence of poetry, according to Vaman. There are three types of Ritis: Vedarbhi, Gaudiya and Panchali. And out of these, he acknowledged Vedarbhi as the best style, as it contains all the 10 gunas. What are those 10 gunas? Ojas, Prasad, Slesh, Samta, Samadhi, Sukamaryas, Madhurya, Udarta, Arthvyakti and Kanti. So if these 10 gunas are there, then your style will be grand. Your style will be the best one. And that will distinguish your work from other works of art. Then we have the next school, which is very important, School of Dhvani. Anandavardhan, in his Dhvanilok, beautifully presented a comprehensive account of poetry and poetic styles. The work is divided into 4 chapters. They are called Udyots. The work has 2 different portions, Karikas and Vrittis. Let me draw your attention over here. Karikas are text, Vrittis are commentaries. In Indian poetics, in Sanskrit poetics, not only Karikas, Vrittis, commentaries are also very important. And the commentators, like the original text writers, they contributed significantly. Commentaries are very helpful for the readers to understand the nitty-gritties, the intricacies of that original text. Original text may be very complex, but in order to have its interpretation, its meaning, for better understanding, commentaries, tikas are very important. These commentaries, they help us you to develop kind of perception which may be very different from the original text, or you can have your own perception also based on those commentaries. So let us come back to this school of Dhwani. And Anandvardhan, he rejected the Alankar school by saying it is the just means of embellishment of the body of poetry. Even he refuted Riti and said it is nothing but form of composition. Therefore he proposed 3 levels of meaning: Abhidha, Lakshana and Vyanjana. He integrated Rasa theory with Dhwani theory. In this particular school we have Acharya Kuntak also. And Kuntak, he talked about the suggestive quality. He talked about Dhwani, it denotes suggestive quality or figurative meaning. And therefore, it distinguishes poetry from our day-to-day speech or our everyday communication. Dhwani means the suggested sense in composition. And where suggested sense is predominated, it is called Dhwani. So Dhwani for even Anandvardhan and to Kuntak also, soul of poetry. It is the pratibha, the art of the poet, the greatness of the creative art. It is lies in Dhwani. So pratibha also comes here, the merit of the poet who provides suggestive layers of meaning, suggestive quality of or figurative meaning to the work of art. There is no poetry unless it has Dhwani in it. Then comes a very important school of Vakrukti. Kuntak, he was the exponent of Vakrukti, and it was, however, first used by Bhama and Dandin. As you know very well, Vakrukti is made of 2 words. Vakra means indirect, and Ukti means utterance or poetic expressions or speech. I like to give one example. If I say, Mr. X, you have become a king. Here, indirectly, what I am saying, that earlier you were so familiar to me. Now you are almost out of my, network. In simple terms, you are not so frequent to me. So indirectly you are passing a remark to make that person alert. So poetry is all about, as per Acharya Kuntak's concept, indirect way of saying something that cannot be said directly in beautiful manner. So indirect suggestions, indirect speech, that makes poetry more powerful, more live, more viable. Kuntak classified Vakrukti under 6 heads: the phonetic level, the lexical level, the grammatical level, the sentential level, the contextual or episodic level, and finally we have the compositional level or prabandh. So Vakrukti to Kuntak is Jivit, Vakrukti Jivitam. It is the soul, life and blood of poetry. Finally we have school of Ochitya. And Acharya Shemendra, he is the propounder of this particular school. He was a Kashmiri scholar, and it is applied both to composition and its evaluation. He made Ochitya the focal element of literary excellence. The chief characteristics of Ochitya is stability in comparison to Gun, Ras and Dhvani. He gave 27 varieties of Ochitya. Ochitya is the intellect of poetic body. It is the quintessence of rasa. He says that alankar, gun, dosh, they are meaningless if you do not have Ochitya in it. So to conclude, Sanskrit poetics, we cannot deny the importance of commentators and their commentaries. We have great commentators like Udbhat, Bhattalolataha, and even our very own Ashwin, that commentaries are somewhat very helpful for the readers to understand the complexities of any text. Thus, it can be said that Indian poetics is full of logical, philosophical, and linguistic problems. And it has very ancient culture tradition. The majority of authors have been influenced in their philosophical and ethical ideas. Thank you. Thank you to one and all, and we will have more deliberations during our interactive sessions.